Today I've brought you to Llandaff Cathedral at the heart of the modern day city of Cardiff, but the cathedral itself actually sits not in Cardiff in technical terms, but rather at the heart of the city of Llandaff. Now the reason for this is, although Llandaff today is really just a neighborhood within the greater city of Cardiff, in the Middle Ages, a city was granted such status precisely because of the presence of a cathedral. And that's the case here. So Llandaff itself, not a large neighborhood, but a neighborhood of immense importance. Now the cathedral is named for St David, but it's associated more closely with another Welsh favorite, and that is St Teilo. St Teilo is a saint of particular importance. He's probably the second most popular saint in Wales, next only to St David himself, but he's also a saint of personal importance to me. And one of the reasons for this is that when my parish was received into the Orthodox Church, we added him as one of our patrons. Prior to that, it had been the parish of St Theodore of Tarsus alone, but gained the additional patronage of St Teilo of Llandaff. So he's called St Teilo of Llandaff because this is in many ways his spiritual home. And one of the reasons for this, at least, is the fact that the cathedral that you see behind me is home to his relics, particularly a portion of his skull. His tomb is inside the cathedral, and just outside the cathedral grounds, we will also visit St Teilo's Well, the first of our Welsh holy wells. Before going in, I thought I would treat you to the sight of a great and rather ancient-looking yew tree. Yew trees are common sights in churchyards across Great Britain, and this one, just judging by its size, while probably hundreds of years old, is not perhaps as old as some, one of which I know of in Dyfyneg up towards Brecon is close to 3,000 years old, but they really are very, very beautiful trees. So the cathedral, as is so often the case with these great medieval buildings, represents different periods in construction. You can determine from the arches above me that we're looking at something from the later Middle Ages, at least this section. But as I walk deeper into the cathedral, you'll see an arch that looks like it is late Saxon or early Norman, and that's normally denoted by its rounded cap as well as the geometric designs in it. It's a very, very beautiful place. We're facing west from behind the high altar, and you can see that the magnificent nave is dominated by post-World War II sculpture. Many find it quite a distressing sight because it seems so dissonant with the overwhelming medieval feel of the place. I tend to agree with those people, but it's worth commenting on nonetheless, simply because it does reflect a desire post-World War II to rebuild and to figure out what it meant to be faithful in a world that had been so devastated by war. I'm proceeding now, though, to the chapel where the relics of St Teilo are to be found. So I'm now approaching the reliquary of St Teilo, where he is lovingly kept and guarded by the Anglicans, in whose care this cathedral has been for 500 years. But in front of me are the relics themselves. For anybody wondering, I have already entered in here and venerated these precious relics. but what we see is the top of the skull of the great saint. So you probably are asking, who is St Teilo? Well, he's probably the second most popular saint in Wales, and there are a number of reasons for this. One is that he was a very close friend of St David, our national patron, but also because their histories are very closely intertwined, and because St Teilo is indeed the patron saint of the city of Cardiff. So you can't help but know something of Cardiff if you're Welsh today, and consequently something of its patron. That said, St Teilo was born in the late 5th century and lived into the 6th. He met St David when they were studying together at Whitland in Carmarthenshire, and it was there that they became friends. Some have said that they were in fact cousins, but regardless, we know that they had a close relationship. So close, in fact, that in the early 5th century, they traveled together to Jerusalem, where they were consecrated bishops by the Patriarch of Jerusalem. Now, this underscores the inherent relationship, I think, between the Celtic West, or perhaps more broadly the Christian West, but especially as it was manifest here in Britain, but that relationship with the Christian East. That said, they returned to South Wales, and St Teilo established a community at a place we now in English call Llantwit Major, but which is in fact Llandeilo Fawr, so the great church of St Teilo. It's just west of Cardiff, and we will get there eventually, but in the meantime, it just illustrates, I think, the importance that this saint actually has. He's well known, and this is determined by the number of churches named for him, but not only here in Wales, equally across Cornwall and into Brittany in northern France. So he is a saint often, or known by a variety of names, only because of the variations that you find both in Latin and in Old Welsh and in English today. So it can get confusing. Rest assured that we're always talking about the same hero of the faith. And here we are looking, finally, at the tomb of St Teilo. I told you it was here in Llandaff Cathedral, and here we're not only looking at his place of rest, but equally at markers that show something of his life. Now, down below here, you see a sign that actually lists some of the significant moments in his life. So if this shows up on camera, we'll be lucky. If not, I'll simply recount some of them for you. But they really tell some of these same things that I had commented on before. One saint I did neglect when I was mentioning their journey, St Teilo, St David's journey to Jerusalem for ordination, was the fact that they were also in the company of St Patron. Now, St Patron is one that we will also be speaking about later in a later installment. But in the meantime, it's worth knowing that the three saints, that is St David, St Teilo, and St Patron, are contemporaries. They studied together and were ordained together by the Patriarch of Jerusalem. So now that we have been around the inside of Llandaff Cathedral, we're going to walk around now through the churchyard and discover something that I only discovered quite recently, and that is the well of St Teilo. This is significant because holy wells formed a very big part of the pilgrimage that I recently undertook alongside Father Andrew Stephen Damick. And we had, prior to our journey, no idea really how infused with the mythology of water Welsh Christianity actually is. So this particular stop is one that will really mark the beginning of our own discovery of this the spiritual significance of wells, and the significance that they might play to us in our own spiritual lives. So as we proceed to St Teilo's well, it's worth knowing that it's actually just up this lane. It's a well that, as you'll see when we get there, is one that doesn't register easily with perception insofar as it's well hidden. Now, that's significant because so many of the wells of Wales are not necessarily set apart in a particular way, but rather hidden beside the sides of streets, covered in grates, or any other number of concealments. In any case, we will resume filming the closer we get. So I'm fortunate to be able to walk in the middle of this lane. It's not that well used, but it is indeed used. And that's what makes the sight of this holy well all the more surprising. So here you can see the information it proffers regarding the well. And there doesn't seem to be much water running underneath, but equally, even if there was, access to it for the faithful would be nigh near impossible. Nonetheless, it's sites like these that mark the whole land, and in many ways attest, when you get to know their stories, to the sanctity of the people with whom they're most closely associated, and nourished then, and in many cases continue to nourish now, the faith of the land and the people who come to it for sustenance.